Welcome to another Telltale Books video. I'm Greg, and I'm going to talk about a book that I buddy read with my friend Samantha down in Texas. We started reading the entire Throne of Glass series by Sarah J. Maas last winter. And we got through the first two full books, and then we went through the Assassin's Blade collection of prequel novellas. And we started the book I'm talking about tonight, Heir of Fire, but she's a mood reader. She kind of lost interest in the middle of Heir of Fire and didn't come back to it. I thought she was going to come back to it right away. She never did. She kept going, and then all of a sudden, a couple of weeks ago, I saw her post a photo on Instagram that had Heir of Fire on her bed as she was talking about something else in the photo, and I right away put a comment on there. What's going on? We're supposed to be buddy reading. We're supposed to finish buddy reading this. So um, she laughed and agreed to finish the buddy read with me. And I think we're going to go on this next week. I'm recording this on November 16th, 2024. During the next week, I think we're going on to the next book, Queen of Shadows. So far, she's talking about it. We'll see if her moods shift tomorrow and she decides not to. Anyway, so we were reading this back in April and May, stopped reading it, and it's been sitting waiting for us to get back to it, and we finally got back to it, and I finally finished Heir of Fire, the third full novel in the Throne of Glass series, which I have here. I love these covers. They're the current Bloomsbury covers. These are not first edition covers. These are second edition, I believe. So less collectible, but look at the look at the illustration on this. Go check out the illustrations of the other current Throne of Glass books. They're awesome. They really are. Very, very nice books. I very nice designs, very nice covers. I really like these illustrations. A lot of modern illustrations I'm not a big fan of, but these illustrations remind me of a lot of the books of the 1940s and the kind of illustrations you see on those. So it's a classic style and very well done. So Heir of Fire, um, obviously it's the third book in a series, and there were also the prequel novellas that we've covered, so it's kind of like book four, really. Um, if you haven't ever read the earlier books, you probably don't want to watch too much of this video because you can't cover a third book in a series without giving away some of the things that you will be wondering about as you read the first, the earlier books in the series. So to not spoil your enjoyment of the series, you shouldn't watch too much of this video. I'll give you a portion that you can watch. The story continues the um, the saga of Selana and her battle against the King of Ireland. And in continuing it, as far as, without giving any spoilers of what continues or what happens, which might spoil the earlier books, I can say that what you got in the earlier books, you get more of here. The writing is on the same level. The characters are handled same way. I mean, if you hate Sarah J. Maas's writing, you're going to hate this book too. If you do like Sarah J. Maas's writing, then this book is going to be more of the same. It's good, and I guess that's what I mean, it continues the story, and there's some interesting developments to the story here. So I'm not saying that's just another Throne of Glass book, but as far as quality wise, as far as the writing style, as far as how the characters are handled and how the story moves forward, it's consistent with the other Throne of Glass stories, and for that matter, pretty consistent with what she did in the Akatar series. Her style is pretty well set, and it's not a complicated style. It's pretty straightforward. This isn't um, really high-end writing like you would get from Le Guin or Ballard. This is writing for the masses. It's easy, it's fun, moves along well. It's everything it needs to be for this type of book. Okay, this type of book being a fantasy adventure aimed at a specific market, and very much written to please that market. And I think it succeeds. Not a top tail, but if you, like I say, if you like Sarah J. Maas, this is more enjoyment for you. You're going to continue to like it. So now comes the stuff that might be a little spoilery for anybody who hasn't read any of the previous books. So check out now. Leave your comments on, before you go, leave some comments and let me know what you think. And hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and come on back for more, because I'm going to continue the series. Like I say, I believe I'm getting into Queen of Shadows starting. This is Saturday, starting Monday. Samantha and I think, are going to start Queen of Shadows. So come on back for a lot more of this. There's that, and I think 3 more books after that. So, for those of you who have read at least the first 2 books, which are Throne of Glass and Crown of Midnight, and maybe you've read The Assassin's Blade also. We're going in the suggested order by Sarah J. Maas. This is Sarah Maas herself suggested you start with Throne of Glass, read Crown of Midnight, then read The Assassin's Blade, which are the prequel novellas, then read Heir of Fire and Queen of Shadows, and the next book, Empire of Storms. Samantha is saying those are best read in tandem, and there's something she sent me that says you read a couple chapters in the one book, then you read, not Queen of Shadows, Empire Storms and Tower of Dawn after Queen of Shadows. Empire Storms and Tower of Dawn, you kind of read them in tandem. You read a couple chapters in one, and then you go read some chapters in the other, and then you keep switching back and forth, because the 2 books supposedly follow characters at the same time frame, but 2 different points of view, 2 different character points of view of that same time frame. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to read. We finished Heir of Fire. We're going to read Queen of Shadows, and then the next 2 novels we'll read them in tandem. So we'll make an interesting video, because I'll have to report on both, because we won't finish either of them until they're both finished. That's going to be a lot of reading too. These are thick books, all right. This is 570 pages. Queen of Shadows is 670 pages. They're not short books. Okay, Heir of Fire. After the events in Crown of Midnight, everybody kind of goes separate ways. Selena goes to, what's that land where Maeve has her little kingdom? Wendlin. It's a separate island away from the main continent. And Maeve is a is Fae, and she has her kingdom there. And on Wendlin, magic still works. The king of Ardenland has blocked all magic on the main continent, which includes where Selena comes from, the little kingdom where Selena is coming from. So she's sent over to Maeve mainly because then she can be trained and her powers can be developed. Okay, so she's there and she's training with this one guy who's also Fae. I'm so bad with names. Um, he's a Fae, but he's got a blood oath. Rowan. He's a Fae and he has a blood oath to Maeve. And Maeve makes him take on Selena's training. And of course, the two of them get a little bit involved. No, I don't think they had sex, but they do kind of become close and friendly. Just not in a sexual way, at least not at this time. So, who knows if they'll get together in future books, but in this book, they're really just friends yet. Anyway, um, things develop and lead to a big battle. Don't want to go too much more than that. The things that develop, if I tell you about those, I'll be spoiling it for you. Those of you who know, you know. The rest of you, you have a reason to read Heir of Fire to find out all the things I am not going to tell you. Instead, I'm going to tell you, as I said before, this is a good book. It's a fun book. Sarah J. Maas doesn't write, you know, highfalutin literature, Shakespeare, Ballard, she's not on that level. She's not on that high literary plane. What she's doing is writing fun adventures. You know, it's like Star Wars. I keep bringing that up in videos. Star Wars is not, when you really start analyzing Star Wars, it's not that great. The dialogue sucks. Some of the acting leaves some things to be desired. It's not the best movie, and it's not really that good of a movie, and yet it connected with people and just went nuts. Is that bad? Is that wrong? No. People saw something in it that they wanted. And other writers, more literate writers, need to learn from that. That if they could take that basic essence that made Star Wars so runaway popular, the basic essence that made Heir of Fire so, or made the Throne of Glass and ACOTAR series so popular, so well loved, take that and put it into your more literary efforts, and you're going to have a really, really amazing book. But until somebody does that, um, people are looking for certain things in books, and every so often a book comes along that provides that. The Harry Potter books provided that for a whole generation. The Twilight books, for whatever you feel about Twilight, it connected with people and provided something that people were looking for at that time. The 50 Shades books did that. Um, Brandon Sanderson's books did that. Sarah J. Maas's whole mega metaverse series that she's got going has done that. They've been runaway successful, making huge amounts of money for the authors and for the publishers, because they gave people something that they were looking for at that time. Star Wars did the same thing. It was the right movie for the right time. It couldn't have been made at any other time in history after 1977 anyway, and have had the same effect. In 1977, that's what people were looking for. And George Lucas just happened to stumble on it and give it to him, and it became this incredible hit. So even though those things are not examples of really great literature, they still hit upon something that people were looking for. And that's important. That's important. I mean, you can't sit down with the idea of you're going to write that next book, what people are looking for now. It just accidentally happens. Somebody has the idea and writes it and puts it out there, and it just happens to connect. They aren't expecting it to connect. They aren't expecting it to make them as much money as it does, but it does. And they're lucky and very happy about it. Um, but for all its faults, this book is completely enjoyable, very engaging. You get hooked into the characters, you get hooked into the universe. There's enough adventure and enough cliffhangers to keep you engaged. And these Throne of Glass books don't really have any sex. There's some romance going on, and there's some kissing, and there's the implication that people have gone to bed, but there isn't the um, description that you get from the Akatarsis series. It's fairly clean. I mean, this is PG. It could be put on television. Okay. Um, so this isn't the fairy porn that Akatar is so famous for. This is just good old swashbuckling adventure, fantasy adventure, and it's mega adventure. It's epic adventure. It really is. It's an epic series. And for what for whatever criticisms people may have of Sarah J. Maas's writing, I looked at the opening line of Queen of Shadows. There was a thing waiting in the darkness. That's a good opening line. That's a really good opening line. I love to see that in books. Ones that, in a single sentence, just makes you go, I gotta know more. I gotta keep reading this. That's good writing, guys. Sarah J. Maas may not be a great writer, but she's not doing a bad job here. And, she's selling books like crazy. She has created an entire new genre. I mean, there are other books that came before were probably that are probably considered part of the romantasy genre, but she's the one that made this big and made it popular and made it, where most publishers are putting their money right now. For whatever you think of that, I mean, all that money means that lots of people are reading her books because lots of people want to read her books. And that's kind of the whole point of publishing a book, right? If you don't want lots of people to read it, you write it and you put it in your trunk and lock it. If you try to publish it, you're hoping lots of people will want to read it, and lots of people want to read her books. So she succeeded in her goal. And there's nothing wrong with that. If it comes with lots of money, that's our society. Um, if that bothers you, then you have problems with capitalism. But don't fault the person that just learns to live with the system, and don't fault the person that just takes something that was. I mean, I'm sure she didn't sit down with the idea that she was going to become a multimillionaire by writing Throne of Glass. She probably had no clue how popular these books were going to get, but she wrote it anyway, and she just got lucky. So, you know, don't criticize her for not being a great writer. Don't criticize her for not, don't criticize her for all that she's profiting off of her efforts, because it would be nice if every author could profit like this from their efforts. It really would. Unfortunately, not every author can write that book. So okay, these books are worth reading, I think. Okay, it's the Throne of Glass series in particular is not really um, the typical romantasy book where you have lots of sex from a female point of view. This is something guys can read and enjoy. There's nothing about this that it makes it a chick book or anything. This is just fantasy adventure. And lots of politics going on, lots of magic going on, lots of special powers. And that's something Emily and I were talking about with Don't Let the Forest In, how young people, especially, I think, should have stories about people who are able to succeed, who are able to go beyond their limitations and achieve things. I think that's good for young people. And this book, I mean, yeah, it's they discover magical powers and they find out that they're heirs to um, kingdoms and stuff like that. But it also is about people overcoming their adversities and finding things within them that allow them to rise up and beat the problems that they currently have, which is a positive message that I think young people need to hear that, as opposed to the extremely dark, tragic message of Don't Let the Forest In. I mean, Don't Let the Forest In can be a fun book to read, but it doesn't really send a message to the reader of how they should handle their problems. It definitely sends a negative view of life, that I think is dangerous for young people who are um, kind of awkward and lonely and being picked on. I think Don't Let the Forest In is sending a potentially harmful message to them, where Air of Fire is sending a very positive message, and I think that's good. I when I was a teenager, I was reading books like Robert Heinlein's Space Cadet, which is about teenagers who go into basically college type training or military type training, and they go up against adversity and they find it in themselves to succeed in the circumstances, and I enjoyed stories like that. It gave me hope in the future, gave me hope that I can overcome my problems. And I think that's what young people who were like me, I think that's what they needed in their lives. And Sarah J. Maas's books give that to you. So I recommend Air of Fire. It was a good book. It wasn't a great book, not a top tail, but it was a very good book. Nothing wrong with it. Nothing bad about it. Nothing I would tear it down for. I'd say it's enjoyable. Sit down and read it. That's all I got to say. Sit down, try it, give it a shot. Maybe you'll like it like I did. Maybe it's not really your thing, but it's not a horrible book. It's just not high literature. It's that bubblegum Star Wars fantasy adventure. But we all kind of need that too. We need a little cotton candy now and then. So, have you read Air of Fire? What did you think? Please leave your comments about that and the other topics I raised in this video in the comments section of the video on YouTube. Don't leave comments in there that have nothing to do with with the book or the author or these comments that I've made. Stuff criticizing my production abilities are just going to get deleted and get you blocked. Okay, that's a promise. Because if you don't like my channel, you shouldn't be watching it. So your comment isn't welcome. I do think about these videos. I do think about ways that I can improve them. But I'm not perfect either. So this is what you get. Anyway, come on back for Queen of Shadows and all the other stories that I talk about here on Telltale Books. Especially lately, I've been really digging hard into Ballard and pushing a lot of Ballard through. So come on back and watch for all of that stuff. I do such a wide variety here. And sometimes Emily is with me. Definitely on Fridays, Emily is with me. You'll see her on Fridays. And so come on back and join me for more.